we really do not want to be in the business of feeding hungry people.
Exactly.
We really want to be doing interventions and things like that, which is creating community, but is enabling community to be able to lift community citizens out of the situations in which they find themselves.
In Zambia, we helped these widows with a chicken program. So we bought them 50 laying chickens and gave them as to actually work together, and this was about 15, 16 widows. So from there they bred the chickens and whatever. They were so engrossed in this process of actually designing the feed for the chickens themselves, building the chicken huts and everything else. But what they've done is create a mustard seed program now to say, right, we're going to put 10% of our chickens aside in order to give to the next neighbourhood and train them. So we're not training them, it's the widows who are actually engaging the widows of the next village.
Welcome to Snack on That with my friends, well, I call them friends, but my hosts, Gav and Gwyn. How are you today, gentlemen?
Oh, we're fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but not your friend anymore.
No, okay, friend. I'm glad. Aren't you glad that Gwyn's covered up though?
He's gone Norwegian on us. So, Gwyn, when were you in Norway?
No. Where's Gwyn been is later on. So
okay.
We're looking towards Zimbabwe today, so we're going to find something out about that.
There's Norway. You've been to Norway.
Yeah. And later on, also today, we'll be looking at the heart of the matter, which is about why we don't want to feed hungry people at all, do we?
Absolutely not.
Do you want to feed hungry people, Gav?
Well, I'd like to be fed.
You?
Yes.
But do we want to? Do we want to feed?
No, we don't want to feed them.
Thank you.
No.
Okay, we'll be looking at that later. So, Gav, I hear you've been out on the loose lately in various supermarkets. What have you been doing?
I'm on the hunt for something, ladies and gentlemen. It appears to be a very rare commodity. So I, as you do, you know, I went round Asda at 10 o'clock last night looking for this particular item. And I did not find it anywhere, and I'm not greatly surprised. I don't think Asda would normally have this, but then I went round Tesco's today. I thought Tesco's was much more likely to have an artichoke.
An artichoke? Hang on, can we stop? Can we pause?
Yes.
Pause for the artichoke. Gwyn, do you know what an artichoke is?
I do know what it is, but I know that it's probably out of season now, isn't it?
Is it?
Is it an it?
Oh.
I don't know if it's knit. Is it knit?
I don't know if it's a knit. I do know literally what it means. It means a long bushy thing with a long stalk on it. Sorry,
that's
big bushy thing with a long stalk on it. That's the dictionary, isn't it? And I think they're quite expensive, so maybe we haven't got the right type of supermarket. You think you found it in Waitrose? Other supermarkets are available.
Yes, I think it's a sort of Waitrose. In fact, it's part of their essential range. Which I have no idea why an artichoke is essential, because I'm sure people out there haven't even heard what an artichoke is.
Along with duck fat.
Along with duck fat. But you see, now I'm on a course here to try and raise the profile of the humble artichoke. And so over the coming podcasts, we will bring artichokes along in various forms, including the legendary Jerusalem artichoke, which, as I think I've explained before, is neither an artichoke nor does it come from Jerusalem. And we're going to get into artichoke recipes, and we're going to taste test them just for you, ladies and gentlemen, and you can go out and experiment yourself.
I thought you were going to bring along anti-jokes.
Oh,
anti-jokes?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you said we were going to get into artichoke effigies.
Okay.
Which would be a bit strange.
Did you hear about the two artichokes who had a real heart-to-heart together? But you have to understand that, of course, it's artichoke hearts that you eat.
Oh, that is so bad. That's so bad. Yeah, you may even not know how to eat an artichoke, but that will all be explained in the coming podcast. We'll see how we get on. But I'm sure there's plenty of other vegetables out there, but for us, the artichoke is the beast.
It is the beast. Okay. That's not what it means.
No. Okay, we'll look forward to that. So, moving swiftly on, in terms of artichokes, you went to a supermarket, but where's Gwyn been?
I've been in Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe, okay. Zimbabwe, where is that, Gwyn?
Well, it's southern Africa, so it's very central, down just above South Africa.
Okay, and how long has it been Zimbabwe?
Oh, that's a good point, isn't it?
It was 1980, actually, that it changed from being... Well, actually, that's 1980 is when it was taken over by Robert Mugabe. But it may well have had a name change before then.
79, maybe?
79, but I don't know. Probably earlier than that.
Okay.
Yeah, because Zimbabwe and Zambia were one country at one point.
Yeah, it was Northern Rhodesia and Southern Rhodesia.
That's right,
Time of Cyril Smith.
So, quiz question, Gav. Capital of Zimbabwe, please.
It's Harare, Chris.
Is he correct, Gwyn?
He's correct.
And I was there with Gwyn when we went
You
over.
did go at the same
You've
time.
forgotten
for that.
that,
I have forgotten that, yeah.
Yes, I went to carry his bags. Yes.
So it's where Gwyn and Gaz. No, Gaz.
Gaz?
Where's Gav and
I've
Gwyn?
killed for less.
Where's Gav and Gwyn been this week?
No,
Or
not
last
this
week?
week.
A few weeks ago.
It was a few weeks ago.
Were you near Harare, and what were you doing?
Yeah, we were. We were at Foundations for Farming College, where all our training is done for the farmers that we've encouraging.
So Foundations Farming, is that an organisation that Feed the Hungry are working with to do
Yeah,
something?
absolutely. They have developed this program of training for local farmers which is an organic farming method, not using any fertiliser or pesticides, whatever.
Oh, brilliant.
And who have a seed centre. They're using local seeds that are appropriate for both desert
So
situations.
I wouldn't know what you could grow in Zimbabwe. Is it a hot country? Is it a bit of? I mean, is it a bit jungly? Is it a bit of everything?
It's a
You know,
bit
is
of
it
everything.
Savannah-y, I think, is probably the
Yeah,
answer.
a large majority is savanna, but it does have areas where you can grow banana trees and coffee in the mountains.
Yeah,
I've not
that
seen
kind of
Zimbabwe coffee in Waitrose.
thing. Probably don't do it.
No, they're
but we can
very,
add that
very,
to the
very
artichoke if we want to combine it.
Okay, so what were they growing? Typically?
we're teaching them how to actually best grow maize and other grain for them to have for their families to eat.
So maize and sorghum are the primary carbohydrates.
What's sorghum? I don't know what sorghum
It's
is.
another kind of millet type, and ground up. They put it into a paste and eat it like that, and pretty much they do the same thing with maize. They make mealie meal out of that.
Mealie
meal.
meal. Come on, what's mealie meal?
It's like a thick porridge.
Okay.
It's not very tasty, but it's what you add to it.
You
It's
usually have a
important.
gravy or something to go with it.
Porridge and gravy. Oh,
Yeah, it
don't-
sounds Yorkshire,
oh,
doesn't
oh,
it?
oh,
It's
it's
gross.
Yeah. But they love it. They eat it with their hands. So they soak
What with
it
the gravy as well?
Oh yeah.
Well, they soak it in the gravy. They dip it into the gravy,
yeah,
and then
and that's the staple diet, is that?
it is. Yes.
In rural communities, yes.
Okay, but so what do we as Feed the Hungry feel we can do with whatever's out there?
What we're trying to do is utilise their land better so that they're growing what they need for themselves on a smaller piece of ground, and then they can grow fresh vegetables on a secondary piece, and then an area then for them to actually grow items for sale in their local markets.
So I'll give you a bit of maths on this. They have about 1.8.
Sorry, just our chartered accountants with a bit of maths.
Thank you very much. I need to get out occasionally. But they have on average about 1.6 to 1.8 hectares, I think is the...
That's right, yeah.
And they, just on 1/8 of a hectare, they can grow sufficient food to feed their families. So there's all the rest of this land.
So what's it? Give me a hectare. It's like a football pitch, is it?
Yeah, it's that sort of size, isn't
Yeah,
it?
absolutely. So you're talking
A hectare is
one corner or a size of a penalty area
Okay.
on a football pitch to grow food for them and their family.
So size of a penalty area grows food for their family that could sustain them for how long?
For a year, and
My
then they
goodness.
can use the rest of the land then to grow for the community or to sell. But it's then lifting them out of poverty because it's creating an income stream which goes beyond just the requirements of feeding their family.
So whereas Feed the Hungry have normally sent food across, we're actually doing stuff in country now to enable them to sustain themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. We have really fantastic donors who provide us with high nutritional meals made of soya and rice and lentils and vitamins.
Pack, yeah.
But what we're finding recently, because of the price of rice and because of the Ukraine war or whatever, is that it's becoming an unsustainable item to actually produce and send.
Yeah.
Even the shipping costs.
And actually the shipping, like we talked about before.
And the consistency of how you can ship.
And sometimes the carbohydrate's not the one that's regular in the country, so rice would not be the type of carbohydrate they would regularly use in the country. So like we said, sorghum or maize is the better because it's understood and known by the people who are eating it.
So we're trying to find food sources we can grow in country to provide food for kids in schools,
Right.
or to actually produce products that we can use for disaster relief.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of relying on food coming for a disaster area from America or from Europe, which can take weeks to do, we're actually growing food that we can then transport within days to an area that might have a disaster.
So if I was to land in Harare, take a whatever bit of transport to a Foundations for Farming local landscape, what would I actually see when I got there?
What you'd see is most of the farms will be close together, so it's like a community.
Like allotments.
Allotments, yeah.
Bit bigger.
Bit bigger. Yeah,
absolutely. So the communities have a community group, like a cooperative. That they're helping each other do the farming. They support each other and keep encouraging them.
So what's the added benefit so they've got the sustainable food farming, they've got their land. What's the added benefit to all this community engagement stuff going on? Have you seen anything, or are we seeing that yet?
Yeah, absolutely. They're working together, they're doing church together, they're actually
Community health, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And further training and education as well, which comes in from Foundations for Farming. But if you can build transformation centres or centres, they can be used for all of that within the community. What I think is quite interesting, we haven't picked up on, is that this is being driven largely by women in the country, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
Wow.
So of the 36 that you've trained so far, 95% of them were women.
Yeah.
And it's really, it is for me quite interesting how you can turn an economy round on inspired women who want to work together in community. I've seen it as well in Burkina Faso,
Right.
where we visited a project in a place called La Fabiego on the west of the country, and the whole of the turnaround in that community is about empowering women. And seeing an economy thrive because of that. So the same thing is happening there, isn't it, Gwyn,
Absolutely.
in Zimbabwe?
Yeah, and especially teaching them how to look after money and looking at starting credit banks, whatever, to safeguard these women from being abused, financially abused by their families.
So are Feed the Hungry and Foundation for Farming received well? Is it expanding? Will we be doing more of that sort of thing, do you see?
Yeah, absolutely. This Foundation for Farming have trained up to 6,000 farmers in Zimbabwe and are supported by the government. So the government actually sends out seed packs to around 20,000 farmers, I think.
Why are we doing this particularly in that location, in Zimbabwe? Why are we developing that there specifically?
First of all, these people are struggling by themselves. They've got no idea how to take the next steps in actually improving their farming. And so they need that sort of help to work alongside them to get to a point where they can live independently. So it's a supportive role.
Remember the mantra we were talking about before, we want to take people from survival through to significance.
Got it.
And all you're doing if you're just shipping food in there is just creating a cycle in and out of survival. So this has to be, the long-term solution for any country like this that Feed the Hungry is working in. Stage 2, effectively. Stage 1 is get involved in the project. Stage 2 is resource them, educate them, and provide them with the support to be able to do it for themselves and find the communities, find the people in those communities with the willingness to do that. So that's why the relationship with Foundations for Farming is so important, because that's the education part of it and provides support. We provide support in a different way by helping them to build the community through the transformation centres and by providing funds for them to be educated.
That's brilliant. So I would assume, that maybe wrongly, that leadership is key for those in those communities for people to develop a sustainable economy.
Quite often that leadership comes through the church. That's what we're finding, isn't it? That brings people together. It's effectively like creating cooperatives, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And it's not a hugely educational role. It's more about a person who has the strength to gather people together and actually lead them and encourage. But it's more than that, though. It's also developing the idea of allowing them to dream.
Right.
So you're releasing them to think bigger than just their daily bread.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you take that example in this church in La Fabiego that we've been connected with, every Sunday afternoon, 200 women who are all doing small microfinance. So we need to get into what microfinance is in a second, but small projects together, and that can be setting up a small business that's deep frying donuts, or another one who's making brooms and stuff like that. But they get together, so it's to encourage each other, to learn from each other, to share problems together, and that's all led by the minister of that particular church. And that is effectively what a transformation centre would look like. And you bring in external resource then to take them to the next level, but they're growing and learning together.
So do you think it's changing the culture of the area?
Yeah, they are far more engaged with each other rather than being beset by the problems.
Okay.
It changes the mood of the area. It changes their hope, their outlook.
I think hope's a key word, isn't it?
Why do you think? I mean, this might be a question that's difficult to answer, but why do you think this works less well through the men in these cultures? Why does it work so well through women?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's a hard one to break as well. The culture of being like the tribal leader or the family leader, and therefore everybody, whether it's the women or children, work to allow him to have a life of comfort.
Yeah, we're effectively playing on the way that things have traditionally been done,
That's
but
right.
empowering the women who would traditionally have been out in the fields and sowing and growing. We're training them to be more effective, because actually we can't break the culture, we've got to work with the culture to enhance it.
Yeah. And you're trying to break away for the women to think that they have to be safe in the arms of the man who can have 6 or 7 wives.
Yes.
So you create a tribe around that to actually look after him. And the women feel that they have to do that in order to survive. Now you're breaking that they can survive and be self-sufficient and not reliant on this old ancient structure.
And it's interesting because the idea of having credit unions there and being able to enable women to be able to save is a cultural change, because any surplus money that's made by people growing, by the women that's growing, will immediately be seen as a resource by not just by the husband but by the community as well. And there'll be 101 reasons why friends and family will want that money, and then before they know where they are, they're basically got nothing left in their pocket. So this actually breaks a cycle, because if it's been put into a bank or a credit union or whatever within that community, it then can't be snaffled by others within that community, and it changes women's lives. It's amazing.
It's fascinating. Just by providing that sustainable economy for that's just those sustainable. Those sustainable capabilities of the women within the community and leadership is tremendous. I'm intrigued massively about the whole women and men gender culture type thing, because of course in this country, with women much more prevalent in society, doing a lot more, men are struggling. It's been seen that men, and especially boys in education here, are struggling to find their identity and knowing what to do, which is similar in a way to what's happening in Africa for a different reason. That's another story, another time. But thank you, Gwyn, for where you've been. That's really good to hear. But let's just develop a little bit into something else, because I think Feed the Hungry as a charity, we want to do things differently, dare to be different. What do you think at the moment are we doing differently? Could be in Zimbabwe, could be back in the UK, that we're daring to do in a different way. Maybe flick to the UK, Gav.
Okay, flick to the UK. Well, we come back to something we said in podcast 1, which is that we really do not want to be in the business of feeding hungry people.
Exactly.
We really want to be doing interventions and things like that, which is creating community, but is enabling community to be able to lift community citizens out of the situations in which they find themselves. Mm-hmm. So that is a journey. It's a long-term project. We are working with the Trussell Trust. We're a Trussell Trust food bank in developing a project called Pathfinder. Pathfinder is quite simply a project which puts money back in people's pockets as quickly as possible. The way it does it is by having a conversation with clients coming through Food Bank and asking them.
Okay. I hear that. Let me be a client. Okay, I'm coming to you now.
Okay.
And you play the part of Pathfinder. Is that all right?
Okay. So you've got a food voucher.
I've got a food voucher. Here, mate. Here's my food voucher. Can I have my Food Bank parcel, please?
Yeah. Hi, Chris. It's great to see you. Here's your food parcel. We have a great system.
Sorry, mate. I haven't got time today. Can I just have my Food Bank parcel?
It will just take a few seconds. Or if you prefer, we can take your contact details and one of our contact team can get hold of you by phone.
Yeah, so call me back.
Call you back.
Okay, that's great. I'll receive that.
So this system, Chris, before you go, all it will do is it will signpost you into the best support that can be provided in the city of Coventry for the issues that you've got that brought you here in the first place. But yes, we do need a few minutes of your time to go through some simple questions.
Okay, so that's the first thing, Gav. That's great. So that's happened. What happens next?
What happens next?
On that callback thing.
On that callback.
Yeah.
It's a matter of a few simple questions to find out the reasons that you came through.
Okay.
We know a lot of those anyway because the signposting agency would have told us on the voucher.
Right.
But at that point, because we're connected into, I think, well over 300 different support agencies, like social services, advice services.
Like just
the
around
centre,
the region?
In Coventry.
300?
Over 300, yes.
My goodness.
And also because this system we've got called STEP actually runs and trawls every website for every advice system in the city.
Yeah, because it's interesting you say that because I've met people who need something, who need a service, but just don't know where to go.
They don't know where to
many.
go. And also the other issue you find is so many people have language issues now.
Exactly.
The beauty of STEP
So
is
you say it's every language. Isn't
every
it?
language, yeah.
Wow.
Well, not every language. Just be careful.
It's a good number.
But a good number.
It's not got to Zimbabwe. It might have actually.
As long as it's
I
got
don't know.
Welsh in there.
It's got Welsh, yes.
Got Welsh.
It's got Welsh. It's got
Everybody's
Romania,
happy the Welsh is
Ukraine.
in there.
So,
in case
yeah.
you don't know, Welsh heritage is to my left. All right.
So yeah, that's one thing. We can send you in your language or a language of choice the best interventions for the issues that brought you there, but they won't leave it just there. They'll follow up to find out how you got on with that.
Brilliant.
And so it's that follow-up, that hand-holding that's really necessary.
And who does the hand-holding? Is there some person remotely, or is it?
So we have a team back at the Halo Centre that do the hand-holding.
Is that volunteers or?
It's a mixture of volunteers and a paid team.
Okay. Yeah.
We've got 2 or 3 who are on paid team,
Yeah.
and then we've got a large army of volunteers. You know, Coventry Food Bank runs, as do most food banks, on a large number of volunteers. I think it's probably well over 200 volunteers that made that happen. Yeah.
Okay, so this person. So in terms of daring to do things differently, you're not actually you're going beyond the food handout to what Hugh McNeil said in the past, a hand up.
Hand up. And that's only one example. If you take our pantry model, that's even more intense because we are actually trying to cultivate a relationship with people who come through our Lington pantry, our pantries in El Shilton, and create an environment where people feel safe and want to stay and have a conversation, a cup of tea, a piece of cake.
Wow.
But then on site, we've got advice services, we've got financial information services.
So I know, for example, that you become a member of the pantry. Is
That's
that
correct,
right?
yes.
And do people feel that's a bit of ownership and that they're part of something because they become a member, and then they feel more engaged and able to talk to you, talk to us?
Well, they understand at the point that they come through the pantry that actually the reason we sit down and we talk about the reasons why they've come through in the first place, because they know that we as an organisation want to support them to get out of the situation that brought them there in the first place. Pantry membership is not forever. Pantry membership is generally for 6 months and then reviewed, because we do want people to engage. And I know our supporters, people who are providing the finance and the food to make this happen, also want to see people moving on. But the beautiful thing about a pantry is it's very intimate. You know, we're encouraging people to stay and to engage in conversation and to relax in that environment. So if you went to our one in New Arley, you know, it involves local church, the church vicar, sit down, just have a chat. Listening, you know, a problem shared is a problem halved. And it's a great social space, social environment.
So it's not what I call a cast-off charity. Get your charity giving here and go off and get on with your life. It's
you might call that a transactional kind of relationship. I come in, I get my parcel, I go. No, the pantry is nothing like that. It's relational.
Okay.
Relational is very important, and if it wasn't relational, I'd stop it in a heartbeat.
With intent of being transformational,
yes.
Yeah. And we've actually got a really good story of somebody who came to a pantry and is now actually working for us.
And
hopefully we'll be getting that on another podcast. That's brilliant. So the heart of the matter for us here as Feed the Hungry is doing things differently, not just in the UK. What about abroad? What do you think the key thing for us in places like Zimbabwe, places like Somaliland that we talk? What do you why are we seen to be accepted because we do things differently? And what's the key?
Again, it's been relational. It's actually talking to them, finding out what their real problems are.
Yeah.
Acknowledging them for their traditions, for their culture, for their community, and finding out what makes them tick and what they value and what's important to them, and actually develop plans around their community, and not just bring a set of stickers to say, right, this is the project, there's your water well, there's your feeding program, and then and pat yourself on the back. It's more about, okay.
So here's a bigger question for both of you then. What do you think Feed the Hungry strategy is long term in terms of what we do, in terms of doing things differently?
Well, the answer is transformation centres. I think that's the drive towards centres where transformation can take place in the lives, whether that's in the UK or whether that's overseas, where transformation can take place in the lives of people and they could be moved from a state of survival through to a place of significance. That is and ultimately that in all these locations we are not there. Our success is actually measured by not being there.
So it's not a case of we do not feed hungry people, it's we do not feed hungry people and we don't want to be there either.
Correct, in the long term.
When we want to create these transformation centres, it's nothing to do with us putting a badge on a building.
Okay.
It's actually develop them to think about themselves, to build a community that has been transformed of themselves.
There's a cycle, you see, which is best described as taking people from a place of dependent in community support to independent in community support. So it's where people do unto themselves because they've been empowered and trained to do so.
I'm going to chuck another word in there. Interdependency.
Interdependency. I like that, Chris. Would you like to explain that?
You've got what was your first one on your own?
Dependent in community.
Dependent in community.
Yes, that's where somebody does unto you.
Yeah, and then you're independent in community,
which is where you do unto yourself.
Yeah, and then interdependent community is where each other do unto each other to help each other as well as helping themselves.
So kind of a catalyst for these.
Absolutely.
For them to go out and do the same.
whole idea is that they should say, we love what's happened here. We want to help our neighbour.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. It's, we've been at the help start, as it were, to actually create it, to go to interdependency where people are helping each other, and everybody feels part. Everybody is able to. I can't say that word. Everybody is able to help one another.
Yeah,
I've got a rhyme with everybody, by the way. I'll do that in a minute.
Yeah, in Zambia we help these widows with a chicken program. So we bought them 50 laying egg chickens and on poultry, and gave them as to actually work together, and this was about 15, 16 widows. So from there they bred the chickens and whatever. They were so engrossed in this process of actually designing the feed for the chickens themselves, building the chicken huts and everything else. But what they've done is create a mustard seed program now to say, right, we're going to put 10% of our chickens aside in order to give to the next neighbourhood and train them. So we're not training them, it's the widows who are actually engaging the widows of the next village.
Wow, okay,
so that's incredible.
That's brilliant. And in a separate podcast we'll be looking at some of the interdependency that we want to develop in this country around allotments. There's a little teaser.
I have to say I prefer spam to chicken, Chris.
Spam, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, I got addicted to spam a few years ago. I ate lots and lots of spam, Chris.
That was in the last century.
That was in the last century. And then I went to the doctors.
Yes, go on.
Yes, and unfortunately he said I had a very low spam count. That's why I was doing it.
Oh dear, that is so bad. I really apologise to everybody for that one. We didn't see that one coming, did we?
No,
that's the best kind of joke.
That's probably a yellow card, not such a red. It's a red card if it's a really desperate dad joke, okay? Or in your case, a granddad joke.
A granddad joke, yes.
Right.
I do have a 21-month-old grandson now.
Yes, and he can't stop talking about it.
I know, he's wonderful.
We've got 2 grandchildren each, haven't we? We've got two each. You've got 2.
Yeah,
He's got 1, and we just get the 1 all the time.
If anybody's got a granddaughter or a daughter called Delilah, we'd like to meet her because my grandson is called Samson. So we're trying to plot out where he should not be in the next few years. Why?
Anyway, there we go. So we've been to the heart of the matter. We've seen Gwyn on where heard about Gwyn and Gav. It was Gav and Gwyn been to Zimbabwe.
That was it.
Okay. So
Gavin Gwyn show.
We've done that today, and of course we've introduced our famous vegetable, which is
the artichoke. But we haven't talked about the Nourish Bar yet, which I think we'll leave for.
I think we'll leave that for another time.
Podcast,
okay.
Yes.
So everybody, you'll be pleased to know that we'll be back again shortly, or maybe a little longer than shortly, and we'll be looking at Ukraine and Feed the Hungry's long-term strategy for war.
To invade France, actually.
Thanks, Gav. We'll see you next time.